Right, I'm just going to go back in. So I'm going to lay down, well, I'm going to have a look on my chart actually. 107 is warmer than 237. So just before I do anything else, I was going to go straight in with my blender, but I'm just going to add a little bit more warmth into this here now. So I'm not blending, I'm just adding where I've gone a little bit, blended it out a little bit far. I'm just going to go back in and add a bit of warmth just with my 107. Just to warm that wood up a little bit. Because if I don't do this, what will happen when I go in, if I decide to go in with the blender, it'll almost take it back to white. Whereas because I'm adding this bit of warmth in now, if I take a little bit of it out, which I will literally do in the lightest touch and in a very few places, it just gives me that extra layer for that blender to have to get through. So I'm just following around that grain, just adding that warmth in. Right, I'm quite happy with that. And you will start to, because you're going layer over layer over layer over layer, when you start to do that brush backwards and forwards bit, you will get texture. It will look like, you know, when you've got a varnished floor and it starts to rub back a little bit, it'll start to look like that. So don't worry about that. That's not the pen's oversaturating. It's not that the paper's starting to pill, because it can't pill with alcohol, because it's not wet, it's not water. Water makes it pill because it saturates into those fibres and it spreads. Alcohol evaporates much quicker than water dries. So what happens is it doesn't have time to break those fibres down and roll them. So it's not that it's doing that, it's just giving you that little bit of extra texture. So I'm just going to show you, now you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I'm going to show you for the sake of the class. If I just go in here now and I'm going to hold my pen vertical and I am literally going to do this. Just go backwards and forwards very lightly, very, very lightly. Because if you go too far with this, you've then got to go over it again and add that colour back in. And just here and there, and you can hardly see it, but it's worth me just showing you a little bit. And this is how powerful this blender can be. So it's why we use it really gently, because it's lifting that colour even with the lightest touch. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you off here so that I don't spoil this completely. So I'm going to lay down that colour. And then I'm going to take my blender and I'm just going to, I mean literally the tip. Can you see how I'm getting a line in it straight already? Look at that. Now that's brilliant for other techniques. So if you wanted to create lines, that's fabulous. But that's how careful you have to be. And then you can create almost like a check effect. Just by going backwards and forwards. And that's a whole new thing that you can do. But I just need to do that to show you. I mean, that looks like a waffle. So if you're ever doing like a waffle stamp, that's the way to do it. Look at that, that's really cool. But that's how powerful the blender is. Now, I'm going to do the same thing with the same colours, but I'm going to do it with a colour so you can see the difference. So I'm going to lay down that same brown that we had originally, and I'm going to go in with my 107 and show you, actually I'll go in with my 237 because it's slightly paler, and I'm going to do the same thing with this. So it works, but it moves a colour and it leaves a colour, whereas this is taking it back to the white. Because you're putting a colour over rather than a blender. Actually, I'm really glad I did this now. I wasn't planning on that. But I'm glad I did, because you can really see the difference now between using a pen to remove colour, a colour to remove colour, and a blender. And the difference in that is amazing. That's more or less gone back in some areas to the white card. that's kept that colour underneath. So if you wanted to, you could go back in and you could do your backwards and forwards with a colour, and that will lighten it. So where we've got quite a dark area, here for example, if I want to lighten that, even though it's dried, I can go back in and it will take that colour out. Let's do a bit here so you can see. So you can see, I mean, that is amazing, the difference between that and that. Same colour pens, but just using a colour rather than a blender. And that's the difference. That's actually a really good demo. So if you're one of those people who are going to want to teach this at the end of it, once you've got your accreditation, that's a really good place to show, to start, and a really good way of showing the difference between the blender and the colouring. See, I'm learning as I'm going along as well. And it's just random things that come in my head, like, let's just see if we can, you know, show the difference between the two. That's actually really cool. But imagine if you've got curtains in a bedroom, so you're colouring a window scene, and you've got curtains down, and they're just a solid shape. You can add that check-in with that. Isn't that cool? I wonder what would happen if we did, see, I'm off now, aren't I? I wonder what would happen if we did something with, let's take a purple, random colour. I know, nothing to do with this, but let's just take a purple and see if I can add a purple stripe at the side of that page stripe. Do you know what? I love my job. Look at that. That's awesome. Look at that. That's amazing. Look at the depth now with that. Oh, I see a whole new class coming on with that. That's brilliant. Look. Right, purple away, concentrate, Melanie, focus. I'm going to lift this up so that you can see it, but also have a look at these bits, because that's wicked. Look at that. Right, that's enough of the wood. I'm going to move on to bubbles, so we're going to the complete opposite end of colouring now. We've put loads of layers down here. On the bubbles, we're going to be really light and delicate, okay? Fabulous.